NSW
In Jamaica.
President Donald Trump's
solid waste reduction.
Marcus Happened.
Good day, I'm Shane Masters, and welcome to News Rewind, Jenn's look at the top stories of the week that was. Following the discovery of cases of malaria on a Nicaraguan boat which was intercepted in Jamaican waters, authorities have implemented measures to prevent any public health risks. More in this report from Jenny Williams.
The vessel, which is now docked at Port Royal, had 94 passengers on board, 3 of which have been diagnosed with the mosquito-borne disease. Chief Medical Officer in the Health Ministry, Dr. Jacqueline Bisesa McKenzie, outlined how the authorities have responded since the malaria cases were detected.
The persons that were detained remain on the vessel. The vessel has been de-insecticized. There has been spraying of the vessel to prevent any mosquito bites breeding on the vessel itself. The 3 persons that were found to be positive were admitted to the Kingston Public Hospital and they were isolated there. The necessary spraying in terms around the hospital compound and in an area where these persons may have passed through would have been done by the public health team.
In the meantime, the Health Ministry has responded to the malaria cases detected and has engaged in other routine vector control activities.
This is routine activities that we do when we have imported cases. In Jamaica, the mosquito that transmits malaria is only present in certain areas, and we have documented these areas, so we would be able to check to see if the persons have come into any close association with these areas, and for the extra precautions to take place in terms of both adult spraying, the spraying of adult mosquitoes, as well as the larvicidal activities to kill the larvae.
Malaria is a life-threatening disease. It's typically transmitted through the bite of an infected Anopheles mosquito. The symptoms of malaria include fever, chills, headache, sweats, fatigue, nausea, and vomiting.
The Jamaica Civil Service Association JCSA is still waiting to hear from officials of the Southeast Regional Health Authority SARA on whether the morgue workers who were interdicted as part of a probe into the improper disposal of the bodies of 2 neonates at the Kingston Public Hospital will be reinstated. More from Kimberly Broderick.
The morgue attendant, operations officer, and supervisor have been receiving their full salaries since they were sent home. Last month, the JCSA said 2 of the employees were found not guilty after disciplinary hearings. It said it was awaiting a hearing date for the 3rd employee. JCSA President O'Neill Grant says there has been no communication from SARA officials. Storage and procedural breaches were detected during the probe. Head of SARA's Technical Risk Assessment Committee, Dr. Patrice Charles, hints that management changes were among the options being considered to address the findings. She says consideration is also being given to retraining some personnel to ensure there's no repeat of the incident. In the meantime, effective Wednesday, the Princess Street to North Street section, across from the entrance to Kingston Public Hospital, will be closed to vehicular traffic for 7 days. The National Works Agency NWA states that the closure is to facilitate critical drainage improvement works in the vicinity of the hospital.
3 men and a woman who are reportedly from the same family were killed in Little London, Westmoreland early Thursday morning. The deceased have been identified as 31-year-old mechanic Howard Humes, 23-year-old Shavane Humes, 33-year-old farmer Paulton Humes, otherwise called Dwight, and 25-year-old Kenesha Wilson, all of Maysmere Meadows in the parish. It is reported that about 12:15 gunmen invaded a lane in the community of Maysmere and opened fire on 3 houses. A police team responded to reports of gunfire in the community, and the bodies of the 4 persons were found in their homes. All bodies had multiple gunshot wounds. They were moved to the morgue. The police are appealing to residents with information that can assist in the investigation to contact the Little London Police at 876-955-7449, Crime Stop at 311 or 811, Police 119 emergency number, or the nearest police station. One man is dead while 4 others have been left homeless in Bogue St. Elizabeth. This after a firebomb shooting Tuesday morning. The details in this report.
The deceased has been identified as 34-year-old farmer Maurice Campbell. It is reported that sometime after 1 o'clock Tuesday morning, the quiet community of Bogue was disturbed when Mr. Campbell and his family were awakened by smoke. His house was set ablaze by the attacker. Reports are that they tried to exit the burning house through a back door but were greeted with gunfire. Mr. Campbell was hit and he died at the scene. The gunman escaped. Minutes after 2 a.m., firefighters were called to the scene to put out the fire. Acting Assistant Superintendent Donovan Clark of the St. Elizabeth Fire Department describes the incident as foul play.
Preliminary investigation is leaning towards foul play as the officer suspect that it was arson. The scene after the firefighting operation concluded was handed over to the St. Elizabeth Police Department.
Basil Griffith, a neighbor of the deceased, says the killing of Humble took him by surprise.
And him work, him doing local farming, seeing. Sometimes I really do and hear my daughter call me and say, well then kill Humble. Me really surprised me if I really run from Pine Peace, come here and see what really happened. You know. For them youth, they growing on my hand, you know. Them growing on my hand. For from me come on and me and them a flex. Me I'll grow to work on the house for them one night and run along come on. Run on Cabbage Valley.
4 other members of the family, including a baby, who managed to escape, are now left to pick up the pieces as their home, along with a motor car, were destroyed in the blaze.
And it will take good leadership to get the people of the Caribbean to reject the symbols of our colonial past. That's the view of human rights lawyer Lord Anthony Gifford, who was addressing issues related to the cutting of political ties from England and reparation for the former slaves.
Lord Anthony Gifford was responding to the question, what would it take to move countries like Jamaica with a colonial past to say we no longer need the British monarchy?
I had the honor a few years ago delivering a lecture in honor of Marcus Garvey. I looked up some of his writings. Marcus Garvey would have been appalled. Here we are, so 50, how many years after independence? 56. And we've still got the Queen as our head of state. You look at our constitution, it's permeated with references to Her Majesty. Her Majesty in Council is our highest court. And I think it needs leadership. There would be two-party agreement if the government took the plunge. If the people need to be consulted, so be it. I will go around this country and exhaust myself to campaign for the abolition of appeals to the Privy Council.
Is the holding onto the colonial past a part of the damage done to the Caribbean people as a result of slavery?
I think this is one of the fascinating sides of the work of reparation, is to identify the damage that subsists to this day from those atrocities and awful experiences of the slavery days. When I introduced a debate in the House of Lords about reparation, I was challenged by the government speaker. The case for reparation is based on saying that there's damage that's still being suffered as in consequence of slavery. There is no evidence of that. Now, I think our sociologists, our doctors, and all kinds of experts are needed to come together, both to prove the links between the atrocities of slavery and today's problems, family problems, sex problems, all kinds of problems, and at the same time to work out a program of reparation, which we can then insist on being enforced.
He was speaking on JNN's program Insight on Wednesday.
There is optimism from prosecution and defense members of the local bar about the initiatives being implemented to move criminal cases faster through the justice system. More from Kimberly Broderick.
President of the Jamaican Bar Association, Jacqueline Cummings, and Acting Senior Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, Sharon Millwood Moore, are anticipating more changes to ease some of the current challenges. The initiatives have been escalated since the installation of Chief Justice Brand Sykes earlier this year. They include setting firm timelines for cases to be tried, a case progression officer to manage the movement of cases towards trials, and dedicated courtrooms for trials. Mrs. Cummings states that the changes will create less opportunities for time wasting.
Well, what can happen is now is that a lot of persons who used to use the system, accused persons and witnesses use the system to their benefit, can no longer now use the system to their benefit. So that if a person hears that their trial date for the rape case is in 2020, he might know why is it good for her to plead guilty to that rape case instead of waiting another year and a half in jail for pending that thing, whereby if he pleads guilty now, he might put a lighter sentence because you have the sentence reduction days, you have the guilty plea credit for time served. It might encourage more persons to plead guilty. Encourage persons to say, okay, if I have to wait 2-3 years with not going back to court again for that matter, then that 2-3 years I can be serving my time.
In the meantime, Mrs. Millwood Moore is praising aspects of the initiatives.
With the existing resources, the output is being maximized. All stakeholders just have to get on board. This system as it stands, because of the involvement of the case progression officer, it also compels a level of communication between the prosecution and defense. That means when a ready matter is identified that should start on a given day, both sides would have discussed that already. So there shouldn't be a case that on Monday morning 5 witnesses are in court and all of a sudden somebody is saying the matter cannot be tried unless one of the extreme circumstances that the Chief Justice has outlined should arise.
We take a break. News Rewind will be right back after these messages.
NSW
President Donald Trump's
waste reduction.
Welcome back to News Rewind. I'm Machine Masters. We now continue our look at the top stories of the week that was. Jamaica's parliamentary opposition is demanding answers from the Andrew Holness administration about whether the state-owned oil refinery Petrojam is owed more than $380 million by a Greek fuel trading company that filed for bankruptcy protection in the United States on Tuesday. We get more in this report from Cody and Barrett.
International news reports have confirmed that the state-run oil refinery Petrojam is among several unsecured creditors of Jnn Marine Petroleum Network, one of the world's largest traders of shipping fuel. The reports state that Petrojam is owed $3.1 million by Jnn Marine, which purchases bunker fuel from the refinery. During Tuesday's sitting of the House of Representatives, opposition spokesman on energy Philip Paulwell sought answers from the government.
And they are one of the clients of Petrojam, and I'm wondering, and I really want to ask the question, do they owe us any money? How much do they owe the committee? And to urge that the future work, be done in the same manner as this one. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The move into Chapter 11 follows news that Jnn Marine's auditors found a $300 million hole in its books. The New York Stock Exchange listed company was taken over earlier this year by a group of US-based hedge fund investors who ordered an audit of Jnn's books going back to 2010. Mr. Paulwell is calling for the Andrew Holness-led administration to indicate the level of exposure to Petrojam.
And in this particular case, we are now aware that Jnn is going up for bankruptcy. And as a purchaser of products from Petrojam, we need to know whether or not there is a debt to Petrojam. We have been told that there is, and we're seeking clarification on it.
Petrojam has a bunkering deal with Jnn Marine Petroleum in which fuel is supplied to Jnn's vessels, enabling the offshore bunkering of vessels passing the port of Kingston. The agreement signed back in 2005 precludes the sale of bunker fuel by Petrojam within the Kingston harbor. In the meantime, Mr. Paulwell says the latest development involving Petrojam highlights the need for a new Minister of Energy to be appointed.
Mr. Speaker, we have been urging the government, especially in this period when the energy portfolio has been transferred to the Prime Minister's office to try and settle this matter quickly, because energy is too important for the portfolio to be languishing.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness took portfolio responsibility for the Energy Ministry in the wake of several scandals which rocked Petrojam in July. The Prime Minister now also has oversight of the Science and Technology Ministry following the resignation of former Minister Andrew Wheatley. There have been calls for the Science, Energy and Technology Ministry to be reconstituted and a new minister named.
There is a call for the government to incentivize developers to use renewable energy. Sasha Lee Hamilton has that story.
Councillor for the Chancery Hall Division of the Kingston and St Andrew Municipal Corporation, Dwayne Smith, is suggesting that renewable energy be a key component in the redevelopment of downtown Kingston. He was among officials from the municipal corporation at the latest RGR News Forum.
Earlier this year, with the support of the opposition, unanimous support, I moved a resolution where I thought it's time that the government of Jamaica incentivize developers to use renewables. Last week we heard the Prime Minister speak of wanting renewables to be 50% of the energy mix by 2030, and we're on the same page. I believe that with all building now, we should incorporate renewables. And what I mentioned specifically in my resolution was that the government of the day should try and find a way to incentivize persons to do renewables in their home for solar panels, etc., etc.
And the Kingston and St Andrew Municipal Corporation plans to use solar energy to power its parking garage.
I went on a tour of a renewable solar parking garage over at CMU, because we want to replicate what we have seen over there over the parish council with our parking garage, and even get some panels on the roof. Went over there to see how it was done, the costs, the savings, etc. And I'll be bringing my report to His Worship the Mayor and the CEO and see how we can get some external funding, because if we're talking about renewables, we need to start right at our home. And we want to replicate this situation across other municipal corporations. We need to start saving.
The Kingston and St Andrew Municipal Corporation KSAMC is to relocate the bus bay from Parade in downtown Kingston as it seeks to transform the area. The details in this report from Kimberly Broderick.
Kingston Mayor Delroy Williams says discussions are being held with the Jamaica Urban Transit Company in regards to the impending transformation.
So that entire area from Ward Theatre, which is North Parade, to south, across the St. William Grand Park, into South Parade, where you have the Kingston Parish Church, Ulmer's Car Park, and what we know as Parade, growing up and going to take bus. That entire space, the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation figure that space would best serve the residents of Kingston and St. Andrew by becoming a grand recreational space.
It is, however, unclear where the new bus terminal will be located.
We would want to remove the buses from there. And we have started no buses there. So there wouldn't be the bus bay there, which we believe is sorry JUTC, but a blight on the area. So we have started those discussions, and those discussions are ongoing, to have the buses relocate so that we can transform the space into a recreational historical space.
He says monuments will be erected at Parade and the area will be pedestrianized. And Mayor Williams has responded to criticisms about the changing timeline regarding the completion of restoration work at the Ward Theatre. Millions of dollars have so far been spent on the project. The municipal corporation says the restoration is advanced.
So the changing timelines is really a result of people having new ideas and other players coming in. We're inviting experts from elsewhere. They come in, they share an idea that we believe, look, we should take that on board. And in the end, for us, it's best we go to next year and do a really good job. So when we open the Ward Theatre, that when our residents come in, they can appreciate it. When our children and the young persons come in, they can say, look here, it was well worth it.
Mayor Williams was speaking at the latest RGR News Forum.
And that's your News Rewind for this week. I'm Shane Masters. Pleasant viewing.